Well, before I get started here, appreciate everybody joining me on a Monday. This is the first live we've been back on a few days. We unfortunately had to take off Thursday and Friday and Saturday. We usually go live on those days and do a podcast on those days. We had our big event this weekend with Honor Tribe Outdoors, so we were extremely busy setting up for that event and preparing for that event. And so, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to the live. I didn't get to a lot of things I was supposed to get to, even for the event. That's kind of how events go sometimes. You just, you shoot, you have a goal, and then your goal is to get as close to that goal as possible, but you never do. It's always a balance of efficiency and perfection. The more perfection, the less you get done. The more you get done, the less perfect it is. And there was no short of that for us here at Electromedics when it came to doing that at charity event at Oak Hollow Farm in Fairhope, Alabama with Honor Tribe Outdoors. They do a huge fundraiser for veterans. They cook lunch for everybody, barbecue and fried chicken, and everybody comes in and buys a plate, and then they raffle off some things and different things like that, and all the proceeds to all of the plates that you buy, to all of the raffle money and everything like that goes to help veterans in need. And Electromedics was there with a booth, and we were selling Rife machines. It went very well, so we're super excited about that. And we probably have more coming from that. A lot of people very interested. A lot of people engaged with us, talked with us about it. And to the surprising thing is a lot of people were like, I've heard of this. That's awesome. Like, wow. And, we started really diving into, how the industry has come a long way in a few years, and it's becoming much more mainstream accepted to use some type of frequency device, rather it's microcurrent, PMF, Rife machines, or grounding mats, or red light therapy, whatever it is. You can find it in most wellness clinics, chiropractors' offices, a lot of neurological, like stem cell offices, and oh geez, what's the word I'm looking for? Orthopedics offices, orthopedic surgeons, orthopedic doctors. They'll often prescribe you something like that if you have to have a major surgery, you have a bad break or something like that. So it was a lot of fun. It was really exciting to see all that. Last time I did this event, I was a volunteer. I was just mostly working construction. And so I was able to participate in a lot of the different areas and volunteer my help a lot more. This year I had a lot more to do with electromedics, so I didn't get to be as involved on that part. But that I still found a way to jump in here and there. I was supposed to be a boat captain where I was taking out some of the family, the children and the mothers, while the veterans were doing offshore trips. I was going to do an inshore trip with the kids and the wives. And at last second, that boat got pulled and I got recruited to set flagpoles. That was a lot of fun. Probably almost 100 flags. We had to beat them into ground that was as hard as concrete. And nobody came prepared. That was a great thing. All these volunteers just show up, and we thought that the venue, had the tools we needed to plant the flags, and boy, that assumption was incorrect. But we improvised, we adapted, we overcame. It was a lot of fun helping HTO. Anyways, in short, unfortunately, that has taken me away from making videos and from doing the podcast. So we are back live Monday here doing the Talking Rife podcast. We have every intention of doing it the rest of the week. So we are very excited. We do have some very cool videos coming up. Unfortunately, today we weren't able to shoot any videos. We had a little bit of a recovery day just to try to to reel from, all of the engagement, all of the work and everything that went into this event. But a lot of exposure for electromedics, a lot of exposure for Rife machines and the overall frequency industry. So it's really exciting to be out there speaking and touching an audience of people that just have not been introduced to it. They are often very excited. They're very interested. I mean, you're always going to have your people that are just like, well, it's not for me, like they're on their way. But there's a lot of open people out there that are just like really excited to see the advancement in technology and the way we look at our bodies and how to keep our bodies healthy. So very, very excited about all of that. We will be posting some videos, some pictures, different things like that to come from that event. And we look forward to doing bigger events like this in the future. We worked with Honor Tribe Outdoors, but over the weekend, Special Forces Foundation was also there. I worked with the liaison of Special Forces Foundation. He is already very familiar and uses himself some types of frequency devices. And so it looks like we're going to be able to work together in the future to really expose this to a lot of veterans. And when I say this, I mean Rife machines, electromedics and Rife machines, to a lot of veterans that they work with that deal with like immobilizing pain and different ailments, but most importantly, PTSD, mental trauma, anxiety, depression, because this technology really is incredible and it can help you in really incredible ways if you do suffer from some form of PTS or depression, anxiety, or mental trauma. So really excited that I got to sit down. I got to have a meeting with him. He was so intrigued by everything that he invited me back. I got to be a part of a group talk that we have with a bunch of different veterans. They were all SF guys, and we got to sit down. We all got to run the Rife machine. I got to be a part of their group talk and really be with them on a personal level and see how my machine could really, really have an impact in the future. So very exciting stuff for electromedics, very exciting stuff for Rife machines and the exposure that they're getting. Just a very exciting time for the frequency therapy industry as a whole. So I will keep you guys updated with that. I'll keep you posted with that. Just know that this is taking off. This is getting very big. I encourage everybody to look into it further and deeper and be more open to it. If you are looking at electromedics Rife machines, we are at a point where it's just like, man, they're moving off the shelves. Now is the time to buy one. More importantly, now more than ever. Sometimes, like at a certain point, when we sell out of Rife machines, it generally takes 6 weeks to get the new batch in. So that's just a form of logistics, manufacturing, and ordering materials, different things like that. It all plays a vital role. We can only do them in large batches at a time. We don't have the luxury of building one machine at a time. So if you do place an order, it could be as far out as 6 weeks if we run out of inventory. So that's why I'm saying right now is a great time to place an order. These things are flying off the shelf, and I'm setting up a schedule and everything so that we can start our next batch. But what a great time for the industry. Very recognized, getting a lot of exposure from the medical community. Most importantly, the medical community is our biggest occupation of purchasers, clients, patients, whatever you want to call them, of electromedics. And that is just super exciting. Every corner we turn, we are talking to a doctor who purchased our machine, a surgeon who purchased our machine, a chiropractor that purchased our machine, a nurse or nurse practitioner that purchased our machine. My wife is a nurse. And so it's just like having that community so open to Rife machines and electromedics. And what we do is just absolutely incredible. Selling to the general public is an amazing thing, but selling to doctors and surgeons and nurses, that's incredible, because guess what? When patients come to them and they know, the doctor, the surgeon, the nurse knows that there's nothing in their practice that they generally do that's going to really help them. And then they've used a Rife machine themselves and they're like, hey, you should try looking into this. That's where you get a lot of traction. That's where things start to snowball. And that's where we are at right now. So that is the super exciting thing that we've had going on over the weekend that unfortunately took us away from the podcast, that took us away from making videos and different things like that. So we were able to make a few videos of the event and things like that on the fly. But just to let y'all know, more content is coming, more exciting things and different how-to videos and what it can be used for, how it works, and different things like that. They're all in the works. I still really looking forward to doing a video about how a Rife machine can be super beneficial to people who don't have pain, who are very healthy, and wonder what a Rife machine could do for them. What we call that is health optimization. So I have a lot of patients here recently, a lot of people reaching out here recently, asking me, what is it that they can do? What frequencies they can use? How can a Rife machine help them in their search for health optimization? Because they're already healthy. They don't have pain. They don't suffer from an ailment or a disease or anything like that. But they are getting older. They know that those things do come in age, and they want to know how can they use a Rife machine to help prolong the health optimization that they already have. And so we will be doing a big video about that. I really hope I'm going to have a guest on with me who is going to play that person who is interested in a Rife machine for health optimization. And we're going to be able to sit here and go back and forth. That way he is on the side of y'all. I get on the side of, like, when I choose a topic and I start talking about it, I start, just digressing and ranting and talking about the science and really technical stuff that a lot of people just don't care to hear or don't know or anything like that. So to have someone in studio that'll keep me in check and just be like, okay, well, I understand that, but how about this? That'll really keep us on a baseline of helping people understand from a customer standpoint of view why a Rife machine is important to utilize in your daily routines. So big Rife news. We're going to move straight into the absolute chaos and shit show of the Charlie Kirk situation. Boy, what is that famous saying? Is let no tragedy go to waste. What is it? No, it's not tragedy. It's my brain escapes me sometimes later. Now I'm gonna have to start doing these podcasts earlier in the day. I get so caught up doing a million different things during the day and for work and everything else that I oftentimes run my brain straight into the ground by the time I get ready to do the podcast. Boy, my goose is just cooked and I'm struggling with vocabulary and things to say. But yeah, it's basically let no good tragedy go to waste. The left and the right have wasted no time on that philosophy and that perspective. So I'm going to break down what we now know about the Charlie Kirk situation, what a lot of different people, podcasters, different things are saying about it, but also just the sheer ludicrous of our country and the politics and the general understanding of words and social interaction and things like that, because it really is sometimes the amount of mental gymnastics you have to do to operate on a day-to-day basis with the public is just flabbergasting. Like, I'm just flabbergasted at it sometimes. I'm like, just, man, like, like, I'm a guy who likes to just talk. I like to talk with reason, logic. I like to generally be straight to the point. Like, black and white is the easiest way to keep things from getting confusing, and be truthful. I'm not saying be disrespectful, but generally honest truth, blunt truth is generally the greatest way to keep things from getting confusing and to understanding a situation as it lies. And right now you live in a world where you have to constantly tiptoe on eggshells around everybody's insecurities, or you got people just crying over here, offended over here, and unfollowing you over here, unfriending you over here, and talking bad about you over here, and different things like that. And I mean, it's just exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. So the day-to-day mental gymnastics that you have to do just to communicate in everyday life just kind of blows my mind. I'm frankly shocked that we've gotten here, and we sit here as not just a nation, but as a society as a whole, And we seem to be very like squirrel brained, to where we have a very like, oh, shiny object over here, like a very short attention span. We have the attention span of a goldfish in society as a whole, to where it's like, one little thing sounds good, like, oh yeah, that sounds good, let's do that. And there's just no real consideration or reflection on how that could impact your community, your neighbors, your life, your finances, your profession. None of it. It's just like, oh yeah, let's do that, because we tend to just be responding in a very emotional manner to something that sounds good that happened in a moment, instead of sitting back and looking at something and being like, man, is a tragedy being exploited, so that we as a society make a decision in a moment based off of emotion, rather that's fear, anger, sadness, whatever it may be. Those are very easy times to manipulate somebody, when you can pull on their heartstrings, when you can pull at their fear of loss, or you can pull on their anger. You're very likely to be manipulated, or easily manipulated, in those situations, if you don't stop, reflect, and make slow choices. Someone once told me that it's like, if you're ever angry, stop, breathe slowly, count to 10 before you respond. And if you're really angry, count to 100. That way you reflect and make a decision based off of reason and logic. Not that passion doesn't have its place, but that famous saying, if you're very passionate, make sure reason holds the reins. You're going to let passion drive you, make sure reason holds the reins. And you don't see a lot of that. You don't even see a lot of passion these days. You just see emotions. People throw around emotions like it's nothing. And emotions are meant to be reserved for very, very intense moments, very spiritual moments, very sacrificial moments. They're not made to just fly off the shelf, because then what happens is you're dis discrediting the entire meaning behind it. And then when something super tragic actually does happen, well, now it has the same response as a spilt glass of milk. And so the importance of controlling your emotions and being able to prioritize when something is actually important and does reserve or deserve a very, you know, intense response that is reserved for those moments that are extremely, again, sacrificial, spiritual, or intense, not just something that is a spilt glass of milk that's very easily cleaned up. It's an accident. It's very easily replaced. Um, and I think you're seeing a lot of that on both sides when it comes to Charlie Kirk. A great example is, we almost have forgotten about Erna and the whole situation with her, and how important it is, how dangerous our communities and public transport system is, how dangerous multiculturalism is, how dangerous the Black community is in America right now. That stems from the sheer amount of manipulation, mind control, and financial enslavement that their communities are suffering from. And that, I mean, there's nothing more dangerous than not addressing a situation because something can be manufactured to immediately turn your eyes to something else. Something in my community that's very concerning that nobody's talking about anymore is the Epstein files and the revelations with that, and how you have an entire presidency that has manufactured an extreme cover up right after they ran on the foundation and the platform of transparency with the exact case they are now covering up. And you talk to me about why I think it's being done and everything else. And I mean, I have no respect for Trump, Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, none of them. You're going to sit up there and run on the platform of transparency and exposure to a very case that touches the hearts of all of the American people. And then you're going to get in your position of power because we voted for you for that very specific thing. And then you're going to get in your position of power and just feed us lies and manufacture a complete cover up that is very observable to the public. Like, man, I've lost absolutely all respect. And it's sad that not more people have, and that we are not holding accountable these people who take office and do things like that. You know, we start to find ourselves very culty like when we're willing to overlook some pretty ridiculous atrocities just so that, you know, our cult holds the reins for a few years before the next cult's voted in. And I mean, you know, it just breaks my heart because I see us going down a path that is terrifying. It's scary. You know, I see the Ernest situation. Like I see us being so desensitized to that just becomes a regular thing, whether it's reported on or not. That just becomes a normal thing. Stab someone in the throat because they're white, completely acceptable. As long as it was done by a minority, completely acceptable. Just stab them in the throat for no reason. Nobody even going to think about that. And everybody's like, you got some people on one side that are just like, you know, oh, well, they deserve it because they're white and I'm a minority. And it's like, that's not at all even like based in any kind of logic or progression or anything. How about we look at it as in, man, like our communities are in shambles and we need to fix it so that people are healthy enough that they don't even remotely consider the idea of going out and stabbing someone in the throat just because they're a different color than them. But instead, it's just like, oh, well, violence here, violence there, violence here. What I see happening, even with the Trump cult and the far leftist cult and everything else, you have a circle, you know, of, oh, Democrats get in office. They mess everything up. So we vote in Republicans. Republicans get into office. They mess everything up. So then we vote in Democrats. And what you're not seeing is them working together. And it's like, it's just because you can't see the goal that they're going for because they haven't talked about it. Let me give you an example. It's like everybody thinks that Trump getting in office and this whole arresting illegal immigrants and everything else is being cheered for. And I'm just sitting here like, do you not think Biden was a part of that plan? Do you not think it was actually planned that Biden would make such a disaster of the border and illegal immigration that we, the people, wouldn't vote in somebody who was going to be the Julius Caesar of illegal immigration? That was their plan. Because it had nothing to do with illegal immigrants. All it had to do was with power. Trump and Biden, they were just the face people. You handed all the power to the federal government. It was about using the military domestically to carry out law enforcement operations and to do it without the restraints of the Constitution. Today, illegal immigrants don't have a constitution or constitutional rights. Tomorrow, it's far leftists, it's Antifa, it's militias, it's white Christians. That's why you have to be so careful. Trust me, I am very anti-illegal immigration. Very much. As a matter of fact, there's almost nothing I wouldn't do to stop border crossings in America because of how much it contributes to human trafficking. I have worked alongside law enforcement officers that are in special investigations for human trafficking. And it is rampant. It's dark. It's hard to sleep at night after you know a fraction of it. So shutting down the border, if that would stop the sexual exploitation of trafficking children, and when I say children, I mean not even in their teens. Yes, I am willing to do almost anything to stop that. But I also understand when you hand federal government unprecedented power with no checks and balances, I know where it goes. You've seen it time and time again. Guess who else knows where it goes? The federal government, powerful corporate interest groups that control the federal government. And they know if you are accepting of no constitutional rights today for illegal immigrants and Venezuelan gangs, cartel members, terrorists who assassinate political figures, you will have no problem accepting no constitutional rights for your fellow Americans tomorrow. Oh, he's a far left extremist Antifa terrorist. He doesn't have constitutional rights. 51% of you will be cheering for it. And then a few years later, it's going to be, oh, well, they are white Christian Bible thumpers. They don't have any constitutional rights. 51% of the country, they're going to be cheering for it. It's only a matter of time. You already see it with the crackdown with Trump using the military with no checks and balances. He's now going after press. When did the First Amendment just get erased? So now you can have your credentials revoked if you report on something that isn't government authorized. I believe that was the statement that was put out by Associated Press. That's AP, a very reliable news outlet to get fairly unbiased news. I'm not saying that it's not government propaganda, but they often will just report facts of a situation as a situation unfolds. Now, does that mean that they are going to tell you, hey, this situation is manufactured by government, this person? No, it doesn't. But they will just give you the bare minimum facts, like with the Charlie Kirk case. Charlie Kirk was assassinated by 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. He used a Mauser Model 98 30-06. He was about 200 yards away. Charlie Kirk was shot in the throat. Apparently, there was no exit wound. We're going to get into all of that, but that's how AP will report it instead of putting their twist or their sign on it. So that's why I like to often look at YP for information, right? I'm not looking at it for an opinion. I'm not looking at it for facts. I'm not looking at it for political insight. I'm simply looking at it as a resource of where I gather information. I then take that with other information that I've gathered in other places, and I try to filter through all of it to decide what the most likely probable fact was, or outcome, or resolution, or observation. But the one thing I do not want is the government being able to forcefully tell journalists and the press and mainstream media what they can and can't report on. Just like I didn't want the government to be able to come in there and tell Alex Jones and InfoWars what they could report on and what they could say. I don't want them doing that to the Drudge Report or the Tucker Carlson Network. I didn't want them doing it to Charlie Kirk. Rather, I agreed with any of them. There's a lot of them that I don't agree with. And even the ones that I do, there are times I don't agree with them. But the last thing I want is the government telling me the ones I'm allowed to agree on. That's why I build Rife machines. I don't like the government telling you how you can heal yourself or your body. I don't like the government saying, hey, this is the only information you're allowed access to. It's the one your doctor gives you. You're not allowed access to anything else. And if someone says a Rife machine can heal you, well, then they're a terrorist, they're a con artist, and we're going to go arrest them, confiscate all their work and all their research. Because that's what they do. So my devices are therapeutic devices. I don't get to say they can heal you. I don't get to say that they can treat anything. All I get to do is say that they can help with symptoms. They have been known, or people have reported back that they have helped them. They have helped them with their symptoms. I'm allowed to call it a therapeutic device. And the government and social media, Silicon Valley, you name it, has come after me for that. Right now, I'm dealing with, I haven't posted in a couple of days and I post something and it doesn't get pushed at all. Like I've been completely throttled for no reason, all just because I talk about Rife machines and I build Rife machines. When I post an advertisement for the Talking Rife podcast, it easily gets 1,000 views. Easily. Definitely hundreds. Like within the hour. I posted one today. It got 7 views within about 10 minutes. I look at it 6 hours later. It still has 7 views. It's just, if you're someone who lives in a world of truth, fairness, you walk a path of strength and spirituality. You walk in the truth. You don't easily sway from it. You're not easily manipulated. Well, I can tell you now, the whole world's going to make itself your enemy. Go be 100% honest and truthful with your friends. Go out to the bar with them. They ask you a question, something like that. Be 100% blunt truth with them. They'll get mad at you. Write a post on social media about truth, about what racism, sexism, multiculturalism, politics, Trump, Biden, whatever it is. Just be 100% truthful and see how many people you piss off. How many people start to attack you. And now, unfortunately, we live in the world where Silicon Valley and social media are allowed to attack you and throttle you and ban you and everything else. Fact check you. Suspend your account. Your Google search optimization, SEO, can be taken down to nothing. No matter how much money you pay, just at the drop of a hat. They don't like something you do. Well, you're at the bottom of the pile now. No one will ever find you, no matter how much they Google search you. They'll have to go to the search browser and type in the actual web address. They'll never find you on Google search. Just because we don't like something you said. That is Silicon Valley, powerful corporate interest groups, and elitists and federal government deciding for themselves what information you are allowed to have access to. They've done it to me multiple times. They've done it to some of my big commercial clients. They try to throttle the information you have access to because they believe that only them, they think they're better than you. And they think that they're the only ones who have the right to tell you what you can do with your body, what you can do to keep your body healthy, what medicines you can take, and what treatments you can use. No matter the situation, they think they have the right to tell doctors how they can study. Oh, you're a doctor with an MD? Yeah, I wouldn't talk about Rife machines because we'll take that away. As a matter of fact, I know a story. Trying to remember what this guy, he had to be an MD. Trying to remember who he was. Now, this is pretty crazy. I'm not going to lie. And it was crazy passionate in the sense of a guy put his life on the line and his medical doctorate on the line to bring information to the medical world. So this gentleman took a needle with basically like staph infection in it and injected it into his stomach. Incredibly painful. Most men and women do not have the pain tolerance to do that to themselves. Like, I mean, like you can't mentally, like you wouldn't be able to do it. Like the pain you would feel from that would be like burning yourself, branding yourself over and over and over again. So this guy did that just to prove that your body can heal from infection by nothing more than cold plunging. So what he did was he cold plunged after that. I think it was 8 days. No medicine, no nothing. Injected with one of the most powerful infections and bacteria that you can do to the human body that literally eats your flesh away. It's so bad. Look it up. Go research staph infection. And he injected it to himself, to his body. And all he did was cold plunge for 8 days, 100% cured. And they took his medical license away from him. He is no longer allowed to call himself a doctor. He's no longer to act or to practice as a doctor. Just because he wanted to show people what your body was capable of. And that you could use an alternative method to antibiotics and surgery to heal yourself from something that is often extremely painful and damaging to the human body. A lot of times when people get staph infection, they can die. They die from fevers. They can die from fevers. The infection spreads somewhere that the antibiotics can't be strong enough to get it out, and they have to use surgery to remove it, and then antibiotics, and they are often left permanently scarred or deformed, even amputation. And this guy, doctor, just wanted to prove that hey, you can actually cure that just by cold plunging. I don't remember how many times a day he did or anything like that. I want to say it was once a day. He cold plunged for like 15 minutes for 8 days and cured the staph infection. So just, it's incredible the links people will go to, or powerful corporate interest groups and our federal government and other people will go to just to throttle the amount of information you're allowed access to. That is what happened with Rife machines. The first Rife machine, Dr. Rife, found out that every cell has a frequency. And he was like, well, I think if we match this frequency, we can actually paralyze it or make it very weak, put it in a weakened state. And if we did that with cancer, well, your body's constantly trying to pick at cancer and remove it from the body, but the cancer is stronger than your body. So maybe if we use frequency to weaken the cancer, that has no effect on the rest of your body, just the cancer cells, and it weakens them, and then your body's good cells come in and can overpower the cancer. I bet you your body can cure cancer. Well, he did it 14 times over in the 1920s. You can look that up. And what happened? Federal government came in, confiscated all his research, destroyed his lab, barred him from working on it at the threat of prison time. That's me here today. 100 years later, I worked with the Rife family to develop modern day Rife machines. And me and one of their descendants, one of Dr. Rife's descendants, decided we would go head on against the medical community, against the federal government, against mainstream media, against Silicon Valley and social media types in China that want to censor and throttle everything. We'll go head on and we'll try to bring this incredible miracle technology to everybody. And boy, has it come at a price. And it's not the legal battles and dealing with law enforcement and everything else. You know, the hardest part is when your own friends and family are skeptical of you, or talk about you behind your back, or don't believe you. Your own friends and family look at you like a kook or whatever, and you're just like, man, like, just, you know, it helped me. It helped me in an incredible way. I just want it to help. If there's one other person in the world that it can help the way it helped me, what I'm doing is worth it. It may not help everybody. It may not be for everybody. It may not be able to help everybody. But if it can help one other person, it's worth it. Which is a lie. I know it can help everybody. I know like the science behind it, the physics behind it, the engineering behind it. The bottom line is it can help everybody, period. You're willing to do it. You're willing to have the discipline to do it. And I mean, it can change lives. I've seen it change lives. I've seen it with my own eyes. Keep people like someone who is in a wheelchair and bring them out of a wheelchair. 2 years they've been using it, still out of a wheelchair. I saw that with my own eyes. The amount of life it has given back to people is absolutely unbelievable. That's why we do it. That's why we're so passionate about it. That's why the government and powerful corporate interest groups and Silicon Valley types and social media come after us for it. Because they think they're better than you. They think they're smarter than you. They think that they have a right to decide what you get to hear, what information you have access to, for one of the most important things in life, which is keeping yourself, your family, your spouse, or your children healthy. Because they don't want you healthy. They want you dumb, fat, out of shape, unhealthy, depressed, addicted to porn and video games, obsessed with yourself, isolated and compartmentalized. Because when you're that and you have no morals, you have no principles, well, you're easy to lead. You're easy to manipulate. You're easily to trigger. They can trigger your emotions like that. And a lot of people on the right will sit here and watch this podcast and think that I'm only talking about the far left. And it's like, man, I'm not. I'm talking about everybody. The right as a whole is doing it real bad right now. They're letting the situation of the Charlie Kirk assassination trigger them and make them very easily manipulated to cheer for a fix that the federal government, the Trump administration, the Trump cult is bringing forth. I can fix it. It's only going to cost you military in the streets of America and the abolishment of the First Amendment. And I don't just mean free speech. I mean freedom of press, free speech, freedom of religion, you name it. First Amendment is going away. And that's how we stop these terrorists from killing people like Charlie Kirk. That's what they'll say. Just the same way they passed the Patriot Act after 9/11. Went and murdered a bunch of people in the Middle East just to control some poppy fields and some gold. It's dark, guys. It gets a lot darker than that. So, see, I've been ranting for a while. I want to get into a few things about Charlie Kirk. So I got my notes here. I'm going to try to stay on point. So the biggest thing I want to look at here is the bullet did not go all the way through. It did not have an exit wound. Now, the soft tissue around the neck with, the bones in this area is nothing. I mean, it's like chicken bones. I could break them with my finger. And it's still the official statement that he was shot. Now, I don't think, here's the problem. We don't know that. It's just the official statement that he was shot with a 30-06 Mauser Model 98. But we don't know that, right? Because we have no, autopsy, coroner report, ballistics report. We have nothing. They haven't released any of that for some reason. But apparently, the official statement is that a 30-06 Mauser Model 98 bolt action rifle. That is a hunting rifle. I mean, it was a long range rifle, what you would consider, what Obama would call a weapon of war. It was just built back in 1898. That's where it gets its name, the Model 98. It was a German weapon. And it was a very successful platform. Anyways, I'm not going to go into that. I'm a gun guy, so I'll go all the way down. But anyways, it shoots a 30-06 caliber round. Now, that round is such a high-powered round. I'm trying to give basis. A lot of people think that an AR-15 round is like a high-powered round, and it's like it's not. It is a carbine round. So you have a pistol round, and then you have a rifle round. Well, an intermediate cartridge would be considered the AR-15 round. That's a carbine round. It's kind of the in between from a pistol to a rifle round, and it is considered an intermediate round, which means it does have power and distance that a pistol round does not have, and then it also has a low recoil, something that a rifle round doesn't have. And when we say this and we're talking about specs, we're talking about submachine guns and rifles, because that was in World War II. That was the main weaponry that the Axis and the Allied soldiers had in their hands and their weapons. There was a unique boundary that we were trying to find. It was an arms race of who could develop the first assault rifle, which meant it was an intermediate cartridge that had the recoil of a submachine gun. A submachine gun shoots a pistol round. It's a rifle platform that shoots a pistol round. And a rifle round, that is a hunting rifle, a rifle that shoots a rifle round, very high-powered bullet. And the race was to develop an intermediate cartridge that could do both, low recoil and high-powered. So that is, a lot of people think of an AR-15 as being a very high-powered round. It is not in terms of rifle rounds. Same thing with an AK-47. A 7.62 by 3.9 is not a very high-powered round compared to rifle rounds. They are strong compared to sidearm rounds, pistol rounds, submachine gun rounds. Those would be 9mm, 45, 40 cal, 357 SIG. The list goes on and on. I'm just naming some of the popular ones. Just like your rifle rounds would be in the realm of 30-06, 300 Win Mag, 7mm, you name it. And then came the development of intermediate cartridges. So you have 223, which is a 5.56 round. That was the 223 Remington. That's the 223 Remington is the SAMI spec. That's SAAMI spec. The 5.56 is the NATO spec. They're the same round. They have different levels of standards that they can be built to. NATO rounds can be built to way looser standards than a SAMI round. Just like a 308. 308 is a SAMI round. 7.62 by 5.1 is a NATO round. They're the same round. The 7.62 by 5.1 is allowed to be built to a lot looser of a standard than the 308 round. So now that you have an understanding of how powerful a 30-06 round is, a 223, it is considered disrespectful and that's not even the word I'm looking for. Bad ethics. Let's just say bad ethics. If you use a 223 round or a 5.56 round, an AR-15 bullet to take a deer, even under 100 yards, that's considered bad ethics in the hunting community. It is considered that round is not powerful enough to give what we consider an ethic death to an animal, a non-cruel death to an animal. That's how low powered it is. Now, this may be a little controversial. A 30-06 is probably going to be used by a lot of people in deer hunting. And I could even go as far as saying as a 30-06 could be considered overpowered for a deer. So that'll give you an idea of how powerful a 30-06 round is. Like a lot of people will use a 30-06 round to hunt much larger animal, like elk or bear. Something that takes much more power to kill. But there are guys who use a 30-06 in deer hunting. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to tear up more meat than you have to. But some guys like a little bit more powerful of a round. But it would generally be considered a very powerful round for a white-tailed deer. So that gives you an idea. Now, let me just tell you the muzzle velocity You're talking about a 150 grain bullet. All right, to give reference, because everybody knows what a weapon of war is, a AR-15. An AR-15 shoots a 55 grain bullet. A 30-06 shoots around, and they vary, right? So, I mean, 55 grain is the standard. A lot of people will shoot anywhere from 55 to 72. 72 being your high-end hunting rounds, 55 being your standard NATO ball ammo. And that goes back to the different sciences of how to get really accurate shots at really long ranges, different things like that based off the weight of the bullet. But the weight of the bullet does generally impact how strong the ballistics are, how strong the impact is, how strong the shock wave and cavity it sends through your body. Generally, the heavier the bullet, the stronger the punch it's going to have when it enters your body, the bigger the cavity is going to be. So a 30-06 round has a 150 grain bullet, okay? That's 3 times the grain. That means it's 3 times the size or the weight of a AR-15 round. And an AR-15 round is generally traveling around 3,000 feet per second. Most good rounds are. Some of the heavier ones, they travel a little slower. I'm speaking very general terms here. A 30-06 round is also traveling 3,000 feet per second at the muzzle. All right, so you have 3 times the size or the mass of the bullet, the weight of the bullet, traveling the same speed. At 200 yards, a 30-06 round is hitting around 2,300 feet per second. All right, so to give reference to that, a 9mm at the muzzle is generally going to be traveling around 1,200 feet per second. So that means, and a 9mm round is a 115 grain bullet, roughly. 115 to 124 is pretty standard. Obviously, in competition shooting and self-defense, they get a lot heavier, up to like 145 and stuff like that. But generally, your standard 9x19 millimeter parabellum is going to be 115 grains. All right, and it's traveling 1,200 feet at the muzzle, which means you took a 9mm handgun and held it point blank to something. The fastest and hardest that 9mm bullet is going to hit it is around 1,200 feet per second. All right, so now we are talking about a 150 grain bullet, still almost 50 grains heavier than a 9mm, and it is traveling at double the speed at 200 yards. It's hitting at double the speed so it's still at 200 yards going to have a bigger cavity, a stronger ballistics, and just the idea, if you've ever shot a 30-06, you could shoot a hog at 200 yards in the chest, hit every bone in its body on the way out, and it's still going to blow a hole out the other side of that hog. And hog skin, if you've ever been on the farm or anything like that, like their skin and their flesh is extremely tough, extremely thick. I mean, dude, like I grew up on a ranch. I used to have to give antibiotic shots to pigs. All right, like I know what it takes to give a shot. I've given myself an IV. I've given my wife an IV. And to poke through the skin, it is like a hot knife through butter. The same needle that you would typically use to inject something in a human that you would use on a pig, it's the same one you would use on a pig, hypodermic needle. And I'm talking like to get it through the flesh, to inject it is like, I mean, it's a stab. It's a stab. There's no gentle, like, I mean, it's you got to get it in there. And I did that growing up. And so when I say that their flesh and their bones are extremely tough, extremely thick, if you shot a pig or a hog with a 30-06 at 200 yards, there would 100% be an exit wound. And not only would there be some exit wound, I mean, it would be massive, especially with a hunting round, hollow point bullet, even a soft tip. And it could hit every bone in there. And it's still, I mean, it's coming out the other side. And that's, I mean, in this area, there's a lot of meat, a lot of liquid. For those of you that don't know, liquid is one of the greatest, like, resistance on a bullet. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you hit straight dirt, your bullet's going to stop. Or you hit concrete, your bullet's just going to explode, and you get, oh, what is that called? Ah, can't remember what it's going to call, but it's basically the bullet explodes into tiny pieces and goes in every direction. It's one reason we use ceramic plates now, because we are using steel bulletproof vests. And guys who would get shot in the chest overseas, they were having problems with the bullet exploding, essentially, and shrapnel going up into their chin and stuff. So that's why we use ceramic plates now, because it hits in there and it catches the bullet inside of here, instead of hitting a plate and deflecting off, breaking into 1,000 little pieces. There's a word for that. I can't remember what it's. Spalling. It's called spalling. So when you shoot a bullet against something harder than itself and it can't penetrate in or anything else, it explodes, and then all the spalling goes in every different direction. My tech girl's coming down to make sure everything's still going well. All right. So, anyways, we've gotten past that science of, like, all right, the bottom line is there would have been an exit wound if he was shot by the official weapon that they're saying he was shot at the official distance that they're saying he was shot from. They're 100%, 1,000% of the time, 100% of the time, there would have been a exit wound. There is no way you're getting shot by that rifle. And so what I think, where maybe I have it in my notes. So they said this surgeon and this person who put out a statement about it was the surgeon who worked on Charlie Kirk's body, said that it's a miracle. That's what he referred to. Not like trying to deter, like, oh, well, it hit and went down in the body. He just kept saying, oh, it was a miracle. His bones were so healthy and so dense that it stopped the bullet. He's like a man of steel, and it most likely saved the lives of those behind him. And I'm like, first off, those behind him, if the bullet had gone through Charlie and hit one other person, yes, it could have killed them. The likeliness of that would have been astronomical, but it could have, and it would have been one person. It wouldn't have hit multiple people if it had passed through like it should have. Okay, and he just kept saying, like, there's no human that's a man of steel that can stop 30-06 rifle rounds once it enters the body like that. And they just kind of took it on this, like, fairy tale. Excuse me. And instead of actually trying to make a scientific argument about why this bullet stopped in Charlie Kirk's neck. All right. And I am a hunter. I hunt with all kinds of rounds. I've hunted my whole life with 30-06. I am a ballistics expert in many ways. We've tested the ballistics, the penetration power, you name it with firearms. I have done it. Hunting rifles are my specialty. Hunting rifles and long range shooting, I love it. I read it the same way most of you probably watch your favorite show on Netflix, or play your favorite video game, or follow your favorite football team. That's what it is to me. I would sit there on Winchester's ballistic calculator all day long, just sitting there playing ballistics to see what rounds, what different flight patterns they had, what ballistics they had compared to each other, how far they would go, what it was at 500 yards, what it was at 100 yards. If you had your scope sight in at 100 yards versus 200 yards, you name it. It's like chess. There are endless different ways to set up a rifle. And I love looking at all of it. And when I tell you that I know the ballistics of a hunting rifle, like many of you, like almost all hunters, I can tell you right now the idea that a 30-06 round shot from a Mauser Model 98 from 200 yards away into the neck of any human being is going to go through and through. Another thing I appreciate, he was shot slightly to the left according to reports, according to the official statement. Not even directly straight, where you would hit the most bone. Apparently, it was slightly to the left, where there is the least amount of bone or flesh in your neck. And this would be the most likely part of your entire body other than maybe some small part of your wrist or something that you would get a through and through shot. There's nothing there. Maybe to the side of your leg, something like that. But your arms and your legs have these like much larger, thicker bones in them. So the chances of them being able to stop a bullet compared to the smaller bones in your neck are just astronomical. It's just a complete lie. We're not being told all the answers. That's the bottom line. It's like we're not being told all the answers. We're not being given all the details. Again, where's the autopsy report? Where's the coroner report? Where's the ballistic report? Where's the rest of the camera footage? Why was the crime scene not secured? Why is the crime scene now an active construction site? Why were witnesses forcefully stopped from giving interviews? There's videos of people giving interviews and describing what they saw, and people come up forcefully stopping them. Why is that? Where's that investigation? Maybe someone should tell Kash Patel we should be investigating people who were trying to give witness statements, and they were forcefully stopped. That's assault. That's what that's called. That is breaking the law. You can ask someone to stop. That's free speech. When you forcefully touch people and force them out from in front of a camera, that's called assault. Where's those investigations, Kash Patel? So a lot of really dark things. So let's move on. So that's, I mean, there's just no way it was a 30-06 Model 98 from 200 yards. Let's see. Apparently, according to reports, he got the gun from his grandfather. And they're saying that maybe this gun's too old to have serial numbers. A lot of just like speculation going around. Why is there speculation and conspiracy theories going around? Because nobody's releasing all of the evidence and the reports. Nobody wants to release all of the camera views. There were cameras directly behind and directly in front of Charlie. Why have we not seen those? Who are the people that took that footage? Why has the FBI not confiscated that footage and released it? Okay, so then you have Patel, assuring the public that you are going to get answers on Charlie Kirk. He assures you that. Much like he assured you the release of the Epstein files. Yeah, big hopes there that we get clarity and transparency in the Charlie Kirk assassination. I'm sure the evidence is already buried there with the Epstein files. It's probably on Pam Bondi's black hole of a desk. What is the official statement on the 71-year-old who confessed on the scene? So he was the guy who was first arrested. If y'all remember, Kash Patel was like, okay, we have an arrest. Somebody is in custody. And then later they were like, the person in custody was released. We have a person of interest. So apparently this was a 71-year-old man who confessed on scene that he was responsible. And apparently, I don't know if this is an official statement, but it is being reported that his motive, which he has been charged with something, his motive was delaying police from getting to the actual shooter. So that's interesting. That may explain how some amateur shooter took a shot and got away like a professional. Because it was very, very interesting that a kid could pull off a shot like that. First off, could pull off getting in that position in the first place. Just to get there without being seen or questioned or compromised in of itself is a skill set that the most elite military in the world, you often spend years training to learn how to do without getting caught. But then to actually make the shot and get away, again, our military spends years, elite military. I'm talking special forces, operatives, Green Beret, most of you, Navy SEALs, Ranger Regiment, Task Force Orange, you name it. All of those super elite military groups, they spend years in training, learning how to get in a position like that not get caught or compromised, make the shot, and exfil without getting caught, escape and evade. Years of training to learn how to do that. Somehow this kid, just kind of figured it out. Well, I'm seeing something now that apparently a 71-year-old had all eyes looking on him on the scene, all of the cops, law enforcement, everybody else. Of course, something like that happens. What is law enforcement doing? Because law enforcement, again, what? They're not soldiers, right? They're just law enforcement. A lot of people have a very high opinion on law enforcement and their ability and their tactics, but the bottom line is they're not soldiers. When panic erupts, emotions run high, police officers are right there with you. Oftentimes we see in the United States of America, because we have so many underqualified law enforcement officers on the force, they often react very poorly. I'm going to give you an example of that. It wasn't long ago that an officer had a person handcuffed. I think it was a girl, handcuffed in the back of his car with the door shut. Already searched, already patted down, handcuffed, put in the back of his cruiser so he could conduct a search on the vehicle they were in. Now, I believe he was there because there were reports of somebody that this person matched the description of that was carrying a suppressed weapon or shooting a suppressed weapon or something like that. So law enforcement comes in, they spot this person, they make contact with this person, that person complies, they pat them down, and they put them in handcuffs and put them back in the police car, which is locked. It does not open from the inside, and there are bars on all the windows. You can't get out of it. And as that officer starts to walk to the vehicle to conduct a search and investigation, an acorn hits the top of the car. This officer completely freaks out, starts screaming, crying, and rolling on the ground while he continues to randomly fire his sidearm in every direction, mostly in the direction of a police car that has someone handcuffed in the back of it. It was a miracle that that person wasn't shot and killed. This high emotional, ridiculous response from a non-experienced law enforcement officer led to other law enforcement officers arriving on scene and continuing to shoot at the police car that had, I believe it was a young lady, handcuffed in the back of it. So that kind of gives you an idea of why I have that perspective. Didn't mean to go off on that. Anyways, we're going to continue on. I'm going to try to get all my bullet points done here before I get off. I know I'm going a little bit over. Trump cult using the killing or the assassination of Charlie Kirk to abolish the First Amendment, round up Americans and Nazify American law enforcement and military. All right, that's kind of what we were just talking about, right? He's using the emotional response from the military and law enforcement to get them on board with some pretty radical orders to go out through their communities. Law enforcement and military have often, in many cases, already been compartmentalized and isolated to the degree that they already hate Americans. I know that's a hard statement for you to hear. If you think I'm wrong, walk up to the average cop and talk to them and see how they respond to you. They look at you like trash. They treat you like a threat. And everybody's like, well, they have to be there. They have to be that way. It's like, well, they didn't. They don't. A lot of cops, when I was growing up, they were looked up to. They were looked up as heroes, as protectors. And people loved to go interact with them and talk to them. And cops responded in a very respectful manner, in a very polite manner, and interacted back. That was his community, and people looked at him like a hero. Nowadays, you can be a cop who's getting the shit beat out of you by 4 people, getting your gun taken from you, and likely going to be killed. Most people passing by are just going to walk by because they don't want legal trouble. They don't want to be associated. They don't want that cop to think they were a part of the group, because that's what it turns into. It's just sad. It's a sad day in our community. Again, The problem with defense is how far you can go without destroying from within what you're trying to protect from without. Law enforcement officers act like they're above the general public. It's only a matter of time before that attitude makes the general public look at law enforcement like they act like they're above them. And where does that lead to? Many cops are proud of that. Many law enforcement, you go look at cops in LA, they're proud of it. They think they're in a gang, a cult. They'll have stickers on their computers that say, "Don't F with the police." They're proud of it. And in that, you can't have one without the other. When you act like that, you get treated like that. And then the public doesn't back you up. They don't support you. They don't cheer for you. It's only in law enforcement being a part of their community. And when I say being a part of their community, that means that doesn't mean you're above the community. That means you're a part of it. And then guess what? Then that entire community supports you. Then when you're in a dangerous situation, you got someone running to your aid saying, "Hey, I saw him go that way." Not people who are just like, "Well, I'm not talking to you," or lawyer, or "No thanks," or "Am I being detained, officer?" It's amazing how many videos I see of that. Am I being detained? Okay, I'm leaving. Am I being detained? Okay, I'm leaving. Why do people do that? Because they want nothing to do with law enforcement. Why do they want nothing to do with law enforcement? Because law enforcement wanted nothing to do with them. Walk up to a law enforcement officer at an event, on the side of the road, anywhere. Talk to them. See how they respond to you. They're going to look at you like you're a dog. They're going to act like they're better than you. They're often going to be very short, very dismissive, if they even talk to you at all. If they don't just say, "Hey, get away from me." And that has led down this slippery slope of the public treating them in the exact same manner. Well, it's for their safety. Yeah, well, the public's doing it for their safety now. They don't want to they don't want to help you or walk up and talk to you because they don't want you to pepper spray them or think that they're, part of whatever and start tasing them or arrest them. All right. And it happens. I just saw this one story where a gentleman had a friend living with him. All right. This friend's going through a hard time, needed a place to stay. He allowed him to stay with him, not even live with him, just stay with him. And it just so happens that guy decided to quit reporting to his parole officer. Well, guess what they did? They came and arrested him. But they didn't stop there. Law enforcement decides to arrest the man and the wife of the household, saying, "You're harboring a fugitive." Even though they were like, "We had no idea. How are we supposed to know he stopped reporting to his parole officer? Nobody called us and said he was. Nobody sent us anything. Nobody come knocked on our door. Nothing. We had no idea that he stopped reporting to his parole officer. So how were we harboring a fugitive?" They didn't care. They arrested the husband and the wife. They put them in county jail. And a lot of you don't understand how bad that is. Like, if you've ever spent a single day in county jail, you would know that it's a form of torture. Okay. Well, after it all comes out, evidence most likely suggested, like if they went to court, that they would win the case. That, hey, they did not have any legal responsibility to know that he stopped reporting to his parole officer. But instead of releasing them and dropping the charges, what they did is they offered them a plea agreement. But why? If you're innocent and you know you're going to win in court, why would you ever sign a plea agreement? Because you were held in jail for 3 months before you were offered the plea agreement. You've lost your entire life. Your house is probably getting repoed by the bank. Your cars are getting repoed by the bank. You're your 3rd month in hell, in county jail with no contact. You've lost your job. You've lost your car. You've lost your house. Both of them. And they offer them a plea agreement. Well, if you sign this plea agreement, which means you can't ever come back after us, we can't go to court on this, you accept guilty responsibility, and you're going to walk away with a felony, which means you can't own guns, you can't vote, blah, 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 then we'll let you out today. But If you don't want to sign this and we have to go to court, there's no bail set for you right now. And just to get a hearing for your bail to be set is probably going to be about 14 months. Then if you do get bail set, you'll get out on pretrial release, or someone has to pay $5,000 for you to bail out. And then you can get out. If no one bails you out, you'll sit in jail until your court date. That could be 24, 28, 36 months. Who knows? Who knows? Whenever we get to it. So what did they do? They signed the plea agreement. That is the corruptionist of our justice system. A husband and wife that would help somebody get punished. Not taking train de Argua off the streets and them prostituting young girls on every street corner in every major city in the United States. Not that. They let that go until you're cheering for Trump to come in with the Marines and the National Guard to patrol the streets. No, they would rather give Karen a speeding ticket at the stop sign and to arrest a husband and wife who have full-time jobs, a house, and cars just because they can trump up charges. So let me continue down. We got a few more things. Man, it gets weirder and weirder. You know, we just went down Trump using the assassination of Charlie Kirk to abolish the First Amendment, round up Americans, Nazify American law enforcement and military. Oh, the ludicrousness of this whole thing is just, you know, I'm just going to say it like this. This came to me in a meme. I just thought it was hilarious. It's like an episode of Outlander or Doctor Who. We have the FBI that's ran by two podcasters. That's our FBI right now. They're investigating the murder of a third podcaster, all while the vice president is cosplaying as a fourth podcaster on the show of the murdered podcaster. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's just absolutely, it's just an episode of Doctor Who. It really is. And then you got Elon Musk sitting next to Trump at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, where more people showed up at a stadium to watch a funeral than they went to the Taylor Swift tour or U2 concert. Tell me you're in a cult without telling me you're in a cult. Now, I'm all about paying my respects to anybody, especially if you were killed for something, for doing something that is generally considered moral or right. But just the entire, oh, the president's coming. Now Elon Musk is there. They're sitting together. It's just this, it's just a game. It's just a game to them. It's a political move to make you just cheer and rally behind whatever the federal government has cooking up next. Because everybody's going to think it's Trump. I promise you it's not Trump. Trump is nothing more than the second chess piece after Biden. And to go further in down that rabbit hole, Bush and Obama had to come before Biden and Trump for this to even be possible, and the shit that they put in and signed into law when they were in office. But ultimately what you're seeing right now is Biden was forced to make our border absolute shambles and to make our immigration policy in our country an absolute shambles from illegal immigration. Trump was the other side, right? You got a villain. They're using him as Joker and Batman. And Batman's going to come in and save the day. But you got to give Batman a whole bunch of money and power. Everybody's cheering for it. Because all they can think about is, oh, Joker's so bad, we got to get rid of him. And they're not thinking about themselves, their communities, their neighbors, their children, their food, their water, their housing. You're not thinking about any of that. All you can see on TV is like, oh, well, Trump's got to save us from illegal immigration. It's like, well, Trump's like, I can do it. But it's going to come at a cost. Very quickly moved from illegal immigrants to crime in D.C., to crime in Chicago, the crime in Memphis. In the middle of all of this, I'm going to end with this right here. I just want everybody to know how ludicrous. These are things that are being done under the rug. While you're focused on Charlie Kirk, Epstein files are absolute history. Erna, absolute history. You're not even thinking about it anymore. And those, like Erna, is a symbol of how just destructive our government and law enforcement is on itself. The fact that that happens in a very highly developed first world country on public transport is absolutely it's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable, period. The fact that our government is involved and actively covering up something as big as Epstein, and all of the politicians and powerful corporate interest groups and bankers and Fortune 500 CEOs are involved in that is absolutely unacceptable. And they're covering up right in front of our face. Like they are like, hey, are you observing us covering that up? Good. Because we want you to know how powerful we are. That's basically what they're saying. Good. Yeah, we're in it. We did it. But we're not going to show you. And we're still in power. And there's nothing you're going to do about it. And we're just going to give you this Charlie Kirk thing so you don't think about it anymore. At the same time that is happening, this is something you all probably don't know. The Al-Qaeda leader, the leader of Al-Qaeda at one time, al-Jawlani, however the F you pronounce his stupid name, al-Jawlani, who was the leader of Al-Qaeda and had a $10 million bounty on his head from the United States. United States military, special forces, and active mercenaries and private contractors were looking for this Al-Qaeda leader in hopes that they would receive the $10 million reward that the United States federal government placed on his head, is now the president of Syria, who is visiting Washington, D.C., sitting down with your elected politicians and eating lobster and steak, discussing the direction that Syria is going to go and laughing about how they just covered up the Epstein stuff to the stupid Americans. That's what's going on. That's how stupid they think you are. Again, it's an episode lost. You can't even describe the level of absurdity. It's like, while we're all focused on Charlie Kirk, DC doesn't want you to know that the former leader of Al-Qaeda, that the United States military placed a $10 million bounty on his head, is now president of Syria. Okay, y'all remember the politics that involved Syria, right? With al-Bashar or whatever his name is, al-Assad Bashar, the former president, who mostly just wanted democracy in Syria and wanted to push out Al-Qaeda, Taliban, ISIS. Didn't want them to have trade routes or strongholds in Syria. And then everybody supported Obama and his no-fly zone. Or no, we didn't support that. We didn't want him to do that because we just saw that with Libya. And then Obama continues to funnel money and weapons to the freedom fighters, formerly known as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Taliban. Well, when you do that and you call the freedom fighters, whatever they were calling them back in those days, they had a name. Oh, I can't remember what it was. Anyways, we openly funded them during the Obama era. Well, eventually, they finally overthrew Assad. And now the president, and it was it's still not 100% official. They didn't have like real elections, but essentially some phony elections. Now the leader or the president of Syria is the former Al-Qaeda leader that we had a $10 million bounty on, that we just lifted. We lifted that bounty in December of 2024. Less than a year ago, we lifted that bounty off his head. So December 2024, this guy was an Al-Qaeda leader that we had a $10 million, the United States military had a $10 million bounty on his head. He is now president of Syria. He just flew to Washington, D.C. on a private jet to sit down at fancy restaurants with your politicians, your elected officials, and eat lobster and steak while they laugh at you over believing this Charlie Kirk and Epstein cover-up bullcrap. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go from there. I know we went long and I got off on rants and really deep, just really passionate about what's going on. Had a few other topics I wanted to touch on. Hopefully we'll get to touch on those at a later date. A lot of important things are happening in our country right now, but I just really appreciate you guys joining me here and watching, and hopefully, you know, we'll all discover truth together and we will be able to get truth to the rest of the world. That's what it's all about. So you guys got any questions, let me know. We'll see you again tomorrow at 8 p.m. Appreciate you guys joining us.